Hey guys, and welcome to the end of the year game rankings thing. I don't know what I'm calling this yet. So, 2021 has been an interesting year. I came back to YouTube. I played a lot of games, and I thought, you know what? Instead of doing like a traditional top 10 video, I wanted to do something a bit more, how can I say this? Reflective, I guess. Where I played a total of around 30 games, probably about 33-ish, and I kept track on Twitter how many of them I had beaten. So today, I thought, what if we take all the games and we rank them? I don't know. Are tier lists still popular? I don't know. I just thought this would be a interesting video to do, and lets me kind of reflect a bit on like what was my game of the year for this year, and maybe some other games I played that really stood out to me that just didn't come out this year. A few games that I don't have on here but I did play but I didn't finish. One of them was Lost Judgment. I played through the original Judgment this year, which is on here, and I'll go over that later, but I enjoyed it. Just didn't finish it, didn't have the time. Unfortunately, it's a very long game, but I did think it was better than Judgment, I'll say that much, and I do recommend it. And the other big one probably being Tales of Arise. I had been out of the Tales series for a while, and Arise got me back into the series somewhat, and I do highly recommend it. Again, just didn't finish it, didn't have the time. It's, again, a long game, and yeah, but those are two that I do recommend, even though I didn't finish them, unfortunately, this year. So, with all that said, we got our games here. I should probably also have next to me the list. If you see me switching between my two monitors here, I'm going to get pulled up the list itself to make sure I get all these right, because we will be starting with game 1 and working our way down the list. Alright, so starting us off, back on January 14th, a game I got in 2020, just forgot the year, Ghost of Tsushima. Where is that? Here it is, Ghost of Tsushima. What can I say about this one? Boy, this was such a, like, whoa kind of game for me, right? It came out, like, last summer, or I think fall, like, close to that point. But I didn't get it until Christmas. And I spent so much time playing this game. I also talk a little bit about Director's Cut in here as well. But it was just an open world game that shocked me about how much I liked it. The story was interesting, the characters were interesting. Music I wish was a little bit better, but the combat in this game is just so much fun. Being stealthy, sneaking around base camps, or taking out enemies with all the different tools you get at your disposal. It's such a very well-crafted game, and I got really into it. This was one of the very few games I actually platinumed because I enjoyed it that much. I think in my lifetime I've only platinumed like 4 or 5 games, not counting like PlayStation 3, PS2 remasters, which was like 100% the game, which I don't really count that, honestly, just because, I don't know, I feel like that's older game, I don't know. Anyway, Ghost of Tsushima. You know what? I think as much as I did enjoy it, and also thanks to the Director's Cut on PS5, adding the Iki Island expansion, which dwelled more into Jin's character, really helped bring that up more to an S. So yeah, Ghost of Tsushima, gonna give that an S. Not gonna count that towards, though, a numbered entry or anything. I'll try to kind of make this, like, from left to right, where would I put it? So for now, we'll put it in S because, again, I enjoyed it a lot. Next up, Yakuza V. Man, this year was crazy with me in Yakuza. I actually finished the entire mainline series this year, not counting Lost Judgment. And 5 was such a, like, whoa. Because last year, when I was playing through 0 through 4, between Yakuza 3 and 4, I kind of got a burnout because I played 0, then Kiwami, Kiwami 2, and then 3 pretty much all back-to-back. But 3 was interesting to me because I don't want to say it's bad, but it definitely wasn't my cup of tea at the time. And Yakuza 4 just kind of felt more of the same. Also had some issues with some of the story, and the combat too just didn't feel as up to snuff. But Yakuza 5, woo! I love Yakuza 0. I did an entire video on that, right? And Yakuza 5, I think, is basically the best precursor to Yakuza 0. If you enjoy Yakuza 0 for its gameplay, you are going to love 5. pretty much is what set that style of gameplay for Yakuza. Compared to some of the other Yakuza games, I think some of the side stories are a little weak. Just some, not all of them. Certain gameplay minigames you got to do, mostly Saejima. Wasn't a big fan of the hunting minigame. It was just a little slow for my liking. Story is kind of weird because it's not bad, but it's a little bit very, I don't want to say segmented, but it's very all over the place because of how it wants to tell it. And I think the ending too doesn't really help because it's meant to be a like kind of ending, but I don't know. It didn't really shock me too much because I already knew Yakuza 6 was coming out, so it kind of hurts it a little bit. So I'm going to put Yakuza 5. Where is it? Did I forget to upload it to this? Oh, there it is. Yakuza 5 is going in A tier. Alright, next. Yakuza 6. Okay. This one. Okay. Gameplay was great. Side stories were really good. First Yakuza game to have all voice acting during side stories, which was really awesome. Combat's fun. It's a little simplified from 5 and 0, but still really good. The story, I think, is kind of weaker than 5's, but the ending nails it. Yakuza 6 is the conclusion to Kiryu in the mainline series, and I feel like if an ending can really sum up a very long story, it can really help bring that up a little bit. And I do put this right below Yakuza 0 as like my third favorite in the series. So, where would I still put this though? Because again, as much as I love this game gave us Ono, Michio. It gave us probably one of my favorite songs in the karaoke tracks, which I think is called Today is Diamonds or something like that. You know what? I'm going to probably still put it in A tier, but I'll put it above Yakuza 5. So, yeah, I think I can live with that. And next, Yakuza 7. Like I said, I was on the Yakuza bench for a little bit. But Yakuza 7, I loved this game. It is my favorite Yakuza game. It is my favorite cast of characters in the entire series. The story made me cry multiple times. The music's fantastic. The turn-based RPG mechanics in this game are some of the best, and it was the first time they did something like this for Yakuza, and I think they nailed it out of the park. Like, this game got me to like a new protagonist almost as much as Kiryu and Akiyama, who had been in the series, in prior games, and it's just like, man, this game, if you've not played Yakuza, if you've not played an RPG, I feel like you can start with this one, and it's going to just hook you in. It's a very self-contained story with some references, but not anything that's major. You can jump into this one and just enjoy it. The sub and dub are both fantastic, and I highly recommend just checking out. So if you like any Dragon Quest game, if you like Persona 5, if you like any turn-based RPG, you owe it to yourself to try Yakuza 7. Easy S tier. In fact, I would probably put that above Ghost of Tsushima. Alright, first game of 2021. So, Bravely Default 2. You've probably seen some, when I make some of my videos, you've probably seen the giant poster I got from the Nintendo thing. Bravely Default 2 is a weird mix thing for me. I don't think it's a bad RPG, and I don't think it's a great RPG. It's very middle. The gameplay is solid, the jobs are fun, the story is kind of eh. I think Bravely Default 1 has a better story, which is kind of surprising, because Bravely Default 1's story, if you play through the entire game, there's a certain part that it just feels like you're hitting a brick wall for 13 hours. I like the characters, but I don't think they compare to the first one. The music's definitely not as good as the first one, but there's a certain charm to it that I really liked. And it is one I do recommend, but I wouldn't recommend it at like full price. I would say like $40, $30 maximum is what I would pay for it nowadays looking back. But I did enjoy my time with it. You know what? I'll probably put it... Let's see. I can never remember what this stuff is. I should have organized this from beforehand, but whatever. Bravely Default 2, where we at? There it is. Gonna put that in B. I feel like that's where it's good. It's not great, not bad, just very, that one line. Next, NieR Replicant. Okay, so compared to Automata, I think I like this one just a tiny bit more because I really, really like the story. I really love the characters and then some of the new stuff they added. that wasn't in the original game, like with Episode Mermaid was pretty cool, and the new stuff with NieR. It really helped bring that game up and really affected me as a player of a game. Without spoiling it, I can't really talk about it. But yeah, the final ending to this game was just fucking magical. And I highly recommend it if you want to get into Yoko Taro's work. I really loved this game. I just think the thing that hurts it the most is the multiple playthroughs you have to do. So going back to replay it nowadays, I definitely wouldn't want to have to redo some of those stuff to get like all the weapons. I thought the side quests were kind of boring, but other than that though, I feel like I would put this at like a very high B or a very low A. So for now, I'll put it right here because NieR really does help bring that up. Kind of an older one next is Minish Cap. I don't know, I was just in the mood to replay a 2D Zelda game this year, and Minish Cap I hadn't played in years. Whew, man, Minish Cap and me go way back. It's how I got into Zelda, right? Like, Twilight Princess is what made me a fan of the series, but it was Minish Cap that I first started with, so I do have almost as much nostalgia towards that as Twilight Princess, but, it's still my favorite 2D Zelda game, like, easy. I feel like it's not aged particularly well in certain areas, but it is still a very fun 2D Zelda game. I feel like I can put that still in a high A. I'll put that above NieR Replicant, at least. It still holds up. I think better than, like, NieR Replicant will in the long run. Next is Judgment. Okay, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. Judgment is probably my least favorite RPG game. I don't know. It just doesn't hit the same way. I think Lost Judgment beats this game without even trying. I think the story is a little bit too jumpy for its own good. Like, there are certain parts I just honestly forgot about because of how much it wants to keep shifting the focus around. It's kind of one of my problems with, like, Yakuza Kiwami is that the story is good for when it's, you know, doing what you get hooked into with the original story, but when it wants to keep doing these different side plots and like how it wants to construct everything to finally tell its whole narrative, I think it gets a little bit messy. And to me, that's what hurts it the most. Also, I didn't really care for a lot of the side content. I thought it was kind of meh. That's one thing Lost Judgment, again, beats this game without even trying with all the school stuff. But there's no karaoke in this game. You got your typical mini games from Yakuza, but it's all stuff I've seen before, right? So it didn't really stand out to me. So I would probably put this Judgment, where are you at? There's probably put that at B. Beating both games. I'll put it below Bravely Default 2. Because it's not a bad game, just not my favorite RPG. Next is Final Fantasy XV, Royal Edition to be specific. I hadn't played Final Fantasy XV since it first came out. It's one of the more interesting Final Fantasies to me because of its development history. The game itself is very weird, where it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid 5, where there are some parts where it is finished, but other parts where it's not because of the DLC, some cut content, all that stuff, right? But the game itself, I love the world. I think it's super interesting. I'm not a fan of the multiple, like, media stuff you have to consume to get the entire story. I did that for this because I wanted to get the whole story finally. The only thing I didn't do was read the book that, like, tells a story from Luna Freya, I think that's her name, and her side of the story, but I went through all the DLC. I thought 2 of them were fun out of the 4 we got, and that was Gladio and Ignis. Easily had the best DLCs. Promptos was probably the worst. Other than that, though, I mean, it's a game that just kind of exists. It has one of my favorite Final Fantasy songs, which is Apocalypse Noctis, I think is the name of the track. But other than that, though, it's just a fun time sink. It's more about, to me, the journey than the final parts of it. And, like, other than that, I mean, I like the characters and I like their bromance. But that's about it. I'd say... You know what, let me do this. Okay, kind of rearranged it a little bit, add some more rows just so I can get a bit more flexibility. C, just mid-C. It's a good game, but not one I go back to often, though. Okay, next one, Ratchet and Clank, A Rift Apart. I love Ratchet and Clank. I really do. It is one of my favorite franchises of all time. Rift Apart was the first, like, Ratchet and Clank formula I had been wanting for a long time. It was one of the main reasons I wanted a PS5. But it doesn't hit the mark as, like, my game of the year. I don't know why. There's a certain thing with this one game that I noticed. And you see this mostly with like Sony games, like play Uncharted 4 specifically, The Last of Us, Spider-Man. Iki Island has this a little bit too, but it feels like they're trying to be very, very cinematic when it's like Ratchet and Clank up to that point hadn't been that super hard, you know? But there are points where when I'm like playing this game that it feels like it's trying to capture something that another game did, and it's just something I've really noticed in Sony's big first-party titles. I don't know if I'm really describing this right, but when it sticks out to you when you notice it, right? And I felt like this with certain parts of Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. The game is fun as fuck. The weapons are great. The story is great. I kind of wish the ending did some things a little bit better. I don't think it beats A Crack in Time as my favorite, but it is still a very good Ratchet and Clank game. And one I highly recommend if you haven't gotten a PS5 and you want that platformer fix or you just want to blow shit up, go with this game. It's a lot of fun. Let's see, Ripped Apart, where you at? There it is. I'll put that there, and tell you what, I will move these down here, move NieR there, and that. I feel like that's a bit better, because like I did enjoy these games a lot. Next is Ratchet & Clank Future Tools of Destruction, and I wanted to go back to this after beating Rift Apart because I kind of wanted something a bit more familiar, you know? It's kind of like with Ocarina of Time with me. I've gone back to beat that game more times than Twilight Princess, even though I said in the video for Twilight Princess that that was my like favorite Zelda growing up. But there's a certain kind of simplicity to it that makes going back to it easier, and that's why I've probably beaten it more times than some of the other Ratchet & Clanks, which are my favorite. But Tools of Destruction is still good. I think it has aged a bit in some places, and there are definitely parts of the story I really don't like. But for what it gave us for the future trilogy, and then leading into some parts of Ripped Apart, I think it's kind of helped elevated it a little bit, but it still doesn't beat out like Up Your Arsenal to me, Going Commando. It still doesn't beat the movie game. Well, maybe the movie game. I don't know. That's a hard one. I'll put that one at like a solid B, if I can find that. So I'm going to be spending more time finding these things than I am actually ranking them. Next, Final Fantasy VII Entergrade. Okay. Got the free upgrade with this one. Played through the original 7 remake. Loved it. It was my game of the year for 2020. Still fantastic. The new PS5 upgrades with the new lighting, some better textures, and 60 frames a second. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. But Entergrade honestly wasn't really impressive. I haven't played Dirge of Cerberus, so I didn't really get a lot of the references that they were doing for that, because I know that's what they were kind of doing with that, but I don't know. It's still Final Fantasy VII Remake, and it's still great for that, but it's that Entergrade part I kind of want to grade more, and I just feel like Entergrade itself with Yuffie is just okay. I didn't really get anything out of it. It introduced a character, and then they're gone by the end, and I really didn't care. Some of the minigames they introduced, like the Fort Condor stuff, didn't really play it, didn't really find it fun. It was just kind of okay. And so I think if I'm just grading this off of the Entergrade stuff, probably put this at D, honestly, just because it didn't really impress me. I'll at least get it at C because it has 7 Remake attached to it, and that is still really good. But Entergrade, I didn't really care for that. Next is Shella Colossus. Oh boy, the big boy. Shadow the Colossus is one of my favorite games from the PS2 era. It's held up extremely well. I've played this game so many times. It was, I remember back in the day, one of the most Let's Play games I watched, because I love getting to see people come up with these strategies to fight these bosses, because of how you had to climb them and stuff, the music kicking in, and just really making you feel like a badass. And the PS4 version is still great. I got it on sale for like $10 and just replayed it. And yeah, it still holds up. Not really much more I can say because it's a game I'm sure a lot of people have talked about, so I'll put that still at B. It's still really good, I just don't go back to it as much as I used to. Alright, It Takes Two. This game absolutely, like, surprised me. It was one of the first co-op games I'd played in a very long time. The story wasn't really my favorite of it, but the gameplay and the level design, it was freaking amazing. The music's great. It's a very fun game. If you have a friend, just sit down and play this. It is a game I can't really talk about because getting to experience it is part of the charm. There's a different thing you're doing in each level, and it just never gets stale. It's a game I've wanted to replay again, but you have to have two people to play it. I do want to thank my friend Aki, who sat with me as we played through this, and it honestly was some of the most fun I've had this entire year. And I have gone on record to say that this was a contender for my game of the year. Like, it really did shock me how much I ended up liking this. So yeah, that it gets a very high recommendation from me. Next is Skyward Sword. Okay. Skyward Sword, when it came out, I loved it. It was one of my favorite Zelda games, but over the years, it has just kind of gone downward for me. No pun intended, I just realized what I said, but I don't know. It still, I think, is worth playing, but the Switch version, other than 60 frames a second, doesn't really add anything. I mean, I guess it's also good to say that the game works, because when we've compared it to other remakes that have come out in the last few years, I mean, hell, even this year, right? It works. Music's still great. I still like the story. I still like the characters. The world is just, it's okay. It's not bad. It's definitely not my favorite Zelda anymore. It's very middle ground. In fact, I'm probably going to give that a D tier. Like, I don't know. Skyward Sword, I'm sure if I replayed it again, it'd probably go down a little bit more. It's just some things with padding that definitely haven't helped aged it well. And next is another game I played a remaster of, which was Tai the Tasmanian Tiger. Grew up with this one on the PS2. It was on sale. I picked it up. I played through it. Honestly, I was bored. I already played Bush Rescue a lot more growing up, and Tai 1 I remember playing as a kid, but just not really that much. And definitely beating it again, it's very bare bones. I mean, I'm spoiled at this point because, you know, we have stuff like Mario, we have Ratchet and Clank. I'm sure there's a few Rayman games here and there, you know, like there are other 3D platformers that came out during this time when this game came out, as well as have come out recently that I feel have just made this game kind of unfortunately age a bit poorly. It's not bad. It is something I can recommend if you're looking to scratch that itch of a 3D platformer. It's just not one I would go out of my way to play immediately. Also, the boss fights suck, unfortunately, because that does knock it down to me as a D. It's like, it's okay, it works, it's fine, just not a 3D platform I want to go back to anytime soon. And next is the original Dragon Quest. I have the Dragon Warrior thing here because I actually like that artwork. Dragon Quest, I love. It is one of my favorite RPG series of all time, right up there with Final Fantasy, Tales, and a few others, right? And Dragon Quest 1, I played the Switch remaster, which basically kind of, you know, updates the translation and just has a bit of code of artwork and some better music. It was okay. I had to use a guide, though, because there's no way I was playing this game without it. Would I recommend it? I don't know. I'd say probably no. Just because I feel like there are much better Dragon Quest games if you want to get into Dragon Quest. Dragon Quest V, Dragon Quest IV, Dragon Quest XI are all fantastic. It's just, one, I feel like you need to be in a certain headspace to play it. It's not bad. It is there. It has its charm. But it's not one I don't think I'll ever go back to. So for that, I'll at least put it in C. Because, again, I think it was okay. It's fun. I can say I've beaten it, and I didn't use cheats or anything like that. I feel like that's pretty cool. Anyway, moving on is Great Ace Attorney Adventures, and I will be grading these as two different games because in Great Ace Attorney Chronicles we got Resolve and Adventures and Resolve, because in the original Japan they had the two games, so I wanted to grade them both for that. So Adventures is fine. It has some weird pacing issues, I feel. It has some really good cases, honestly, and made me really love the music. And there's one song in the soundtrack I have been trying to find the name of for the life of me that plays on the second case, and it is, like, my favorite track to come out this year of a game, almost. Sherlock Sholmes is one of my favorite characters in Ace Attorney. In fact, I'd probably put him as my favorite next to, like, Dick Gumshoe, Miles, and Phoenix, and, you know, the other main cast. Well, I'll say, in terms of detective characters, he's easily number one. I'm sorry, Gumshoe. He overtakes you just because of how funny he is, and also, I've just seen a lot of memes with him. He's a very charming character, and just the rest of the world around it itself is really interesting. And I think overall, it's a fine game. It is a very well-crafted Ace Attorney game. I just feel it's just okay. Again, this is judging the first game. Oh, I didn't put it on the thing. That one I would put at a B. Because again, it's pretty good, but yeah. Alright, next is Pikmin 3. I played this game 3 times because I wanted to get better times. I love Pikmin 3. In fact, I just love Pikmin. Pikmin is, I think, one of the most underappreciated, like, Nintendo franchises. Pikmin 3 is easily my favorite of all the games. I have played through this game probably a grand total of like 7-10 times versus Pikmin 1, which I've beaten like 30. Pikmin 2 I've only beaten twice. I really like Pikmin 3. I vibe with the world, I vibe with the characters. It's just a lot of fun, the speed run too, which I normally don't do, but I love getting to beat my time, and I forget what my record is, but I know I got it underneath 26 days. I'd have to pull it up to check. Pikmin 3 is also a very well crafted game if you want to get into Pikmin. I think it's easy enough to learn. Deluxe is really, really good, and in my opinion, it basically fixed any issues I had with the Wii U version, which there were very little, but still, really enjoyable game. I'll put that, yeah, you know what, I'll put that in S, because I actually really like Pikmin 3. Okay, no, I probably can't do that compared to the others. Very high A, very high. Next is Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster. I've said this a few times, Final Fantasy IV is my favorite of the classic Final Fantasies. I love the world, I love the music in this game. Pixel Remaster, just like, you know what, we're gonna go ham, we're gonna knock this out of the park, and they fucking did. This game's soundtrack is freaking incredible, and it really did, I think, help elevate 4 even more for me. I am very excited for Final Fantasy VI when that comes out, but I still stand by 4 is probably going to be my favorite even after this point, because 4 just has so much charm to it, and getting to see the references that we got in a game I'm going to really be talking about later in extensive detail really helped elevate this game even more in my mind. So this one, easy S. Easy. I love this game, and it was great to finally beat this game after years of not being able to finish it. Next is God of War. Oh boy. I was really excited for Ragnarok after the Sony event when they showed that off, and I wanted to replay the original. I did. I played the updated PS5 version where they added some better frame rate and better textures, all that. Still a great game. Not much I can really say about it that hasn't been said already. It's a well-crafted open world game. I really enjoy the story. I enjoy the combat a lot. There's lots of side content to do in it. It's a very well-crafted game, and I really hope the team working on Ragnarok knocks that one out of the park, because this one is really, really good and was definitely, I remember in 2018, one of my favorite games that came out this year. So put that in the A tier. All right, No More Heroes. I feel like I'm gonna piss some people off. F. And I want to stress, when I put something like this in F, I'm not saying it's like the worst game I've ever played. It's not Eden A The Misadventures. It's not Sonic 06. Just compared to the rest of the list, out of all the games I beat this year, this was easily the worst. I absolutely hate the open world in this game. I hate the controls for the bike. I hate grinding for money. The story is okay. I didn't really get it, to be perfectly honest. The boss fights are great. The combat's fun, but it's such a pace breaker of doing the stuff that is fun versus stuff that's not fun. And whether that's supposed to be some kind of commentary or kind of way, or how the game is meant to be played, I don't really agree with that. I feel a game should be fun throughout the whole thing. And if you do have some downtime, have that moment to have some fun. But a lot of the mini games in this I just don't like, and having to just force grinding just to be able to continue in the story, not a fan of that. Wasn't a fan of it in Tales of Xillia 2, not a fan of it here. I much more prefer No More Heroes 2, and I haven't played 3 yet, but I will be getting to it in some time. But yeah, this was easily my worst game I beat of this year. Next is Ace Attorney 2. Easy A. Not even a contest. I had some critique on how it started, but again, how it ends is what helps elevate it, because I feel Ace Attorney 2 helps elevate it to one of the better Ace Attorney games. Definitely in my top 5. It definitely has to have that first game behind it to help back it up, but because it has that and it nails the landing too, easy A. This was definitely a contender for my game of the year, I know that much, but I wouldn't say I'd put this at, like, the top. I'd say probably number 4, maybe, out of all the games I played this year, that came out this year, I should say. Pretty much everything I said about Ace Attorney, Great Ace Attorney 1 apply here. Just the ending I thought was really good, and I thought the story in the beginning was a little slow, kind of had some problems with how they did certain things, but it really does pick up, and I do recommend people stick with it. Next is kind of a more obscure title, I feel, but it's one that I really enjoyed, and that is Imposter Factory. So, I love To the Moon. I think I've referenced that in 2 of my videos, at least in the intro. I've shown, like, some gameplay from those, even though they're just RPG Maker story-based games where it's more about just telling the story. There's not really a lot of gameplay. There's more puzzle stuff in it, but not a lot. Imposter Factory I've been waiting on since I finished, what was the second game? Finding Paradise. And it was great. I had a lot of emotions in this one. I didn't cry. I did cry in To the Moon several times, and in Finding Paradise towards the end. But this game I didn't. I got close a few times, but it is, I think, a well-written game. Definitely an interesting game, too, as well, for one of the characters. And I still would recommend To the Moon if you want a game to just get you into a story. Because the story in these games are really good, and the more you play, if you play To the Moon, and then Finding Paradise, and then this game, there's a nice flow to everything. Although you can jump into this one without playing the others, but it's still pretty fun. I just wish it had a bit more tearjerker moments, but I'd probably put that in an A. Alright, next is Metroid Dread. Easy, easy S. This game, I can't believe I enjoyed it as much as I did. When I first played it, I hated it because it was too hard. I was dying so much, and I was playing on normal. But I got the hang of it. I learned the bosses, and I've beaten it probably 7 times already. I think my fastest time is under 3 hours and 20 minutes. I've tried to learn as much as I could, just going through this game as fast as possible. And I just love playing it. Anytime now I sit down and play it, I beat it in one sitting because it's just a well-crafted Metroid game. Metroid isn't one of my favorite Nintendo franchises, but I really enjoy Metroid Prime and Metroid Zero Mission. In this game, easily my favorite 2D Metroid from here on out. I really can't wait to see another Metroid game by Mercury Steam. Hopefully we get one. As far as I know, this game did sell pretty well. But yeah, it's a good one. Next is Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Okay, this game, I feel so weird about it because I honestly think this has the worst story out of all 3 games. But the gameplay is so good. It is easily the best of the Tomb Raider trilogy. And I'm just now noticing I don't have the original Tomb Raider on this list. Oh well, it's fine though. I can say where it would be then. But anyway, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. The conclusion to the reboot trilogy, I wanted to like more of the interactions between Laura and, God, what was that one guy's name? What was his name? It's his partner. Jonah. I really wanted to like more of their interactions, but I just felt like Jonah and her, like, the moments they have in this game are really good, but they don't do them enough. It's not like Uncharted where you have Sully and Nate getting to connect in those more downtime moments, or Sam in Uncharted 4, you know? I really wanted to like this game more, and I think that just certain parts of the story, while pretty cool, were just okay. I would still probably put that at B, and that's pretty much all I can say. Next is the original reboot. I just replayed the entire reboot trilogy. I would still put this at an A if I had to, just because the original reboot, I think, holds up extremely well. The gameplay is sick. The world is awesome. The story's not too bad, actually. Because unfortunately, with Tomb Raider versus like Uncharted, I think Uncharted has the better story throughout all 4 games versus Tomb Raider, where it has some issues in certain parts of their story because of how they're written, I feel. But the original Tomb Raider reboot is really good, and definitely one I can recommend, and it's always pretty cheap if you can get it on PC. Next is 9 Hours, 9 Persons, 9 Doors. My favorite visual novel of all time. Easy S. Not even not even a contest. I love the Virtue's Last Reward games. 999 is easily my favorite, with probably Virtue's Last Reward being my second favorite. This game's story is absolutely incredible. It is such a tearjerker at points. The music is fantastic. The puzzles are great. It's a very well crafted mystery game, and I got to experience the English dub this first time, and that was a treat. There's a lot of really good voice acting in this. I actually highly recommend this one. This actually has got me curious to try out maybe something like Danganronpa, because I've never played Danganronpa, believe it or not, and like this game also is what made me a fan of Spike Chunsoft. That's why I played AI the Somnium Files last year, and I thought that game was just okay, and I'll be picking up the sequel hopefully when that comes out. But 99, I still think, is the best written out of all three games, and one I highly recommend people want to try out if they want to get into visual novels as well. And next is Rise of the Tomb Raider. Pretty much say what I said about the reboot for the first game. I think this one, though, is the best. Has the best puzzles, has the best story, the best gun combat, just lots of really good things about this. It's basically a sequel in its purest form. It's a great entry to the series. You can start with this one. You do not have to play the reboot. I think it is worth playing, though, because when you get to see the graphical jump from the first game to this game, it's much more apparent to help make it stand out even more on its own. And it just basically did what I wanted the third game to do, but much more. So, not much more I can really say on it. It's like, apply what I've said to the first for the other games and apply that here. Next is Metal Gear Rising. I'm gonna put that C. I'm sorry, like, I don't really consider myself a fan of the hack and slash genre. Like, I have beaten Bayonetta, I have beaten Metal Gear Rising, I've played God of War 3, and yeah, I did beat that one. But I don't know, I've just never really clicked with it. It's something I respect people who can really play those games well, and I love watching speedruns, I love the music in a lot of those games, especially Devil May Cry. But I've just never really got into them. But yeah, Metal Gear Rising, it's good. It got me to replay MGS5, which I am playing through right now. And next, and honestly, I'm going to go ahead and just say this now, my game of the year, Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, the conclusion to a story I fell into 2.5 years ago, and made me cry more than any other game I've played this year. It really did affect me when I beat this game, like, probably more than any other game. I think the only one that came close was NieR, where my reflection as what 14 has done to me personally, how it has bonded me with people that I've gotten to know over the years and have made some of the best friends I've had in a very long time. The memories I have with this game is something that's going to be with me till the end of my life. I never really had an MMO growing up, and getting into 14 was one of the best decisions I've ever made, I think, in terms of just playing games in general, because the story really does reward you for playing. And it's a game you don't have to commit yourself to. You can take breaks. You can just step away for a bit if you have to. Come back, and it's like you never left. It's a game that, to me, will keep its fun factor no matter how long you play. And as a person that has gotten involved with its community more than probably any other game franchise in recent years, and has been doing raid content now for almost 2 years at this point, and still continue doing it and plan on doing it even further in the future. You know, 14 to me is a game that really does hold a very special place in my heart, and Endwalker being the conclusion to everything that was built up from A Realm Reborn, Heavensward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, and just getting to see how it all wrapped up was really an amazing experience. And it's something that I haven't experienced since Yakuza VI, and I think Endwalker did it a little bit better. And it's because of that, like that ending, the way that it concludes, that really helps sell it to me as one of the best games I've played in a very long time, and one that I don't think I'm going to get another experience like that for quite some time. Getting to see a story from beginning to end wrap up in such a satisfying way that I want to almost take the journey again, because it was that satisfying. And I hope, you know, someday that I get to experience that again with either Final Fantasy or another game. I mean, I'm sure I will, but it's one of those things, it's such a rare treat that when you get that piece, it's you don't know when you're gonna get to have it again. So, looking at my list now, if I was to, let's see, kind of move stuff a bit more around, I would probably do... Okay, I feel that's pretty good. I'll move this down. I think that is my list. I would say that's how I would most likely rank all of the games I played this year. We have Game of the Year for me is Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, probably followed by It Takes Two, and then followed by Metroid Dread. That's probably the order I would put for my top 3. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This video went on a little bit longer than I was anticipating. Hopefully I'll have this up sometime in January for you guys. But yeah, that's all I've got to say for now. I might do this again next year depending on how this goes. So yeah, if you want to see what games I've beaten throughout the year, follow me on Twitter. If you want, feel free to comment what games you guys have beaten this year, and I'd love to see any recommendations that I may have fallen out on, or if you disagree in my opinion, feel free to tell me so in the comments. So anyway, that's it for me, and I'll see you guys next time.